Welcome to the HerbWorks podcast featuring Roger Drummer, the formulator at HerbWorks.com. An educator in the field of nutrition and Chinese herbalism, Roger has a unique ability to keep things simple by taking all the guesswork out of complicated health issues. HerbWorks is committed to helping you improve your health and enhance your life through herbs and common sense.
This is Laura, your co-host with
Roger Drummer.
Welcome to the show, everyone. On today's show, we are talking about how to get heavenly energy. That's kind of a mouthful. It is. But before we go there, let me ask you a little bit about yourself, Roger. So you are the formulator for HerbWorks company. You formulate what exactly? What do you work with?
Chinese herbs is basically what I'm trained in and what I was licensed in by the U.S. government. I'm a diplomat of Chinese herbology.
That sounds very fancy. Let me stop you there. What does that mean, diplomat of Chinese herbology?
First, I want to say it doesn't mean I'm a diplomat to China. A lot of people think that. I've actually had people tell me that. No. What it means is that I was licensed to practice Chinese medicine without acupuncture.
Okay, how did you get that licensure? Did you go to school?
I was an apprentice to a master herbalist. And at the time, they came up with the licensing. Mm-hmm. They were only giving licenses to acupuncturists. Right, yeah. But the reality is, it kind of sank into everybody that half the people that go through school actually hate acupuncture. But they love Chinese medicine. So they wanted to give those people a way to actually practice their new skill without having to do acupuncture. So they created a different licensing just for herbalists. You know, and to me, it only makes sense because in Chinese medicine, 90% of what they do is herbs. It's not acupuncture.
90% of what gets prescribed, you mean, if you go to see a doctor?
90% of the procedure of Chinese medicine is really herbal. It's not, acupuncture is one of the modalities they use along with it, but Chinese medicine is based on herbology.
Right. And when you say that Chinese medicine, we're talking about a very specific genre of ancient practice, right? Chinese medicine. And so when you are working with Chinese herbs, you're a diplomat of Chinese herbology. Tell me, how is that different than someone who, like myself, I grow parsley, sage, rosemary, mint. All of those things have a long history of being used medicinally in the Western world, correct? So how is your knowledge of Chinese herbs different than, say, what I do with my kitchen herbs, my culinary herbs?
Well, the difference is that the Chinese, by the very nature of who they are, were very into in-depth study of different herbal substances and the energy of them. So everything got cataloged over thousands of years into how they affect your body in certain ways. And then the whole herbal system is dependent on how you combine all those different herbs for different effects on organs, glands, and meridians so that it becomes a formula that then imparts a certain change to your physical body. As opposed to here in the West with things like the herbs you were talking
parsley,
about,
mint, rosemary,
we often
and thyme,
just read about them as this takes care of this symptom, this takes care of this disease, this. In the Chinese way of looking at it, they look at your body, try to figure out what your imbalance is, correct the imbalance, and then the body corrects itself. And that's kind of the different way of looking at it. Here in the U.S., we have a system that we classify everything that happens in your body as homeostasis. Mm-hmm. You know, homeostasis is your internal regulating energy, that everything is on a precise little pattern by which it operates in your entire body. Right. Well, Chinese medicine's kind of the same way. They're looking at what is the weak point in your own system, and then they're going to complement that. Or if something's causing it, like an illness or an infection, they'll take that out. But then there's other herbs in it to complement the way that your body works. So it allows it to go back into its own state of homeostasis and correct itself.
Okay, so when I hear you talking about homeostasis, I'm thinking about how, as you were saying, one of the differences between, say, Western herbology and Eastern, Chinese herbology in particular, is that the herbs in Chinese herbology, the herbs that you have worked with for how many years?
Since 1990.
Okay, so a while. You're not a newbie at this. You're more of a legacy herbalist, right? You've been doing this for a long time. So what I'm understanding is that with the Chinese herbology, we're looking at things that we might call an excess versus a deficiency and how that plays into homeostasis in the body. So that's how you use your herbs when you formulate. You're looking at how to decrease something and increase something else.
Well, that works mostly in medicine. And that's the Chinese medicine part of Chinese herbology. But that's not what I do.
Okay, so what is it you do?
At HerbWorks, and this is how I was trained. I was trained in a smaller segment of Chinese herbology that's not really medicine. It's called superior herbs. And what that means is that the herbs are considered to be food-grade substances that you can have as part of your daily diet.
So what you formulate with, then, are not medicinal herbs, but you're formulating with substances, plant substances, herbs, that have a regenerative effect upon the body? Is that it?
It's all about strengthening the body so it operates in its optimum level of operation.
That's kind of what we call wellness these days, right?
Well, that's what tonics, another word for superior herbs is tonics.
Tonic. Okay.
In China, they break all the herbs up into 3 classes. You have your medicines, which make up 90% of all Chinese herbology. And they're considered to be poisons. They kill something off in your body and get it out, right? Right. If you take them when you're feeling really well, they'll make you really sick because you're not supposed to take them unless you're sick. And then they have another small class called general herbs. And general herbs are kind of balancing. You use them seasonally, or you mix them with some of the superior herbs so that your body assimilates them better.
Okay, and but that's not what you're using. What you're using.
Well, I use a little bit of that, but what I mainly focus on are the superior herbs, which are considered to be tonics in food.
Okay.
And so the definition of that basically means to tonify, which means to strengthen a weakness or a deficiency somewhere in your body.
Okay. So again, we're back to that kind of idea of excess versus, not having enough of something. You're deficient or you're excess, and kind of bringing the body back to balance.
This is why they're perfect for people in modern day living, right? Because most people are worn out. They have conditions related to stress, which wears them out, and then they have more stress because they're worn out, and it's a never-ending cycle, and it ends up oftentimes becoming something that we classify as a chronic disease. And a chronic disease is basically someone who's worn out and become deficient, and their body's just not operating at its optimum level.
Okay, so from what I'm understanding, you have been working with these tonic herbs for a couple of decades, yes?
Yes.
All right, and I assume you've experimented on yourself as well as having worked with a large amount of people before you became a formulator for HerbWorks.
I may have consumed the most tonic herbs of anybody that is alive today.
You think so?
Yes, I have used them daily for the last almost 30 years.
I see. That's why you're so good looking.
Well, we'll go on to another point.
Well, they are anti-aging, aren't they?
Well, yes, they are. But, it's not something that probably has a lot of science saying they're anti-aging. But the whole anti-aging thing is kind of it's a strange term, because any nutrition that you take that your body actually utilizes is anti-aging, because the main way that you age is through the cellular damage you experience from a lack of nutrients and energy.
Well, I mean, okay, so we're parents, right? For those of you that don't know, we have children together. We've been married for a very long time. And, we've had experiences where something happens with the kids or something happens in your life, and you feel like you wake up the next day with gray hair.
Right.
Right? Like a certain event can just immediately age you. So most of us have had some kind of event like that in our lives, right? Whether it's children or parents, something traumatic that you feel rather immediately ages you. So how does working with tonic herbs address this kind of stress level that we're talking about?
Because tonic herbs are basically foods that nourish your glands and your internal organs so that they're operating at their optimum level. And so your glands, it's almost like every day you're getting a food that supplies energy and nutrients to these parts of your body. So now your internal organs actually make better energy and nutrition out of the food that you eat because you're absorbing more of it. Your glands are more in a balance, and because you're not as stressed, you don't get as worn out. And then tonic herbs are famous for replenishing your kidney adrenal energy. You know, kidney adrenal is a huge concept in tonic herbalism about replenishment and how, you know, aging prematurely is really related to the energy of your reproductive system, your kidney adrenal, and they have herbs that address that. I use them in almost all my products.
That's really fascinating. So we've been talking about tonic herbalism and the herbs that you use that help replenish the body, yes?
Yes.
Okay. You use some of these, well, most all of this in your formulas, correct?
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about your flagship formula and the story of TianChi. TianChi, what does it mean?
TianChi means heavenly energy.
Okay. In what language?
That would probably be Chinese.
Chinese.
I don't know if that's Mandarin or whatever it is.
Okay. So heavenly energy. Why did you want to formulate a product called Heavenly Energy or about energy in general?
Well, for a couple reasons. One is that I want people to feel good when they take TianChi. I didn't want to make a product that lowers stress hormone, even though it's for stress, without making you feel good. You know, the whole Western approach to everything is taking a chemical to reduce a chemical.
Right.
But there's so many hundreds
That's
of
how we
things
deal with pathologies, yeah.
going on in your body that need to be corrected so that you don't produce that one chemical. And so I want you to have a feeling from taking TianChi that you just feel good or you have heavenly energy. Now, the word TianChi actually refers to an acupuncture point on the top of your head. And in Chinese theory, that we're all connected to energy outside of ourselves, that's the point where it actually enters into your system.
What we would call in yoga maybe the crown chakra.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's basically what it's about. So it's connecting you up to all the energy around you and making you just feel really good.
Okay, so that's why you say that it is awakening the spirit, right?
The main reason that it's awakening your spirit is because when you take someone's stress away or you reduce their stress, they actually get in touch with how they feel. And so most people, they don't realize this, but most people go through life not actually being who they are. They're being who their stress allows them to be or to present themselves in life. They're always reacting to stress, and they're not coming from the position of being relaxed, being in their body, and basically doing what they love or expressing who they are. In fact, most people that are stressed are afraid to express themselves or afraid to express who they truly are. And when you open that up and you de-stress someone, you put them in a position of actually coming from their heart and from who they really are.
So you formulated TianChi because you wanted to have a stress reduction drink, right? Something that reduces your stress.
Right.
But it's also a healthy energy drink. So it decreases your stress, but how is it increasing your energy level?
Well, there's a few ways, and it was made to replace or to be a healthy replacement for energy drinks.
Okay.
If you're familiar with energy drinks at all, they're not very good for you, but people need them.
Why are they not very good for you?
Because
the general ones on
they're
the
just
market?
really high in caffeine and they have a few chemicals in it.
Okay, so how is TianChi different than that?
TianChi is different because it's two different formulas put together. Half of it is herbal, and it's enough herbs based on all the 20-odd years of study that I've done with people and dealing with tens of thousands of people. It's enough herbs to actually make a change to your body. Not just to lower your stress hormone, but to have enough there to strengthen your organs and glands. If taken on a regular basis, 30 days from now, you will be in a different state of health. So that's one way that it works. The other way
So you're
that it
saying,
works,
let me interrupt you for one moment. So you're saying that there's a quantity of tonic herbs within this flagship product, the TianChi, that actually is healing to your body.
It's healing to your
so
body.
you've put in
while at
enough
the
of it
same
that it
time,
works.
it's having an effect on your brain and your physical body. Mm-hmm. And then it's combined with a nutrient mix that supplies you with basic vitamins and nutrients needed to balance your brain.
Okay, so you're talking about brain health as well then.
Right. Back when I formulated it, I realized that was right at the beginning of everybody's awareness opening up with memory loss. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of snowballed since then to where it's become one of the major issues in the entire world. But I also was able, because of all the studies I've done in my own experience, that most memory issues are caused by a couple different things. At least a couple things that the average person can take care of themselves. One is stress. When you have elevated...
You mean the level of stress that you're
Your level of
experiencing.
stress. When you have excessive adrenaline and excessive cortisol in your system.
And that's a response to stress,
That's
right?
what your body produces under stress. Then that destroys the memory center of your brain. And it sets your whole brain up to have these cascading inflammatory chemicals that deteriorates brain function. Now, the other thing that causes memory issues is a lack of nutrition. And so most people are completely deficient in nutrients they need to run their brain, and their diets don't supply it. That's mainly why they're deficient, and they don't supplement to actually do that. So I've created a formula that's specific for affecting the part of your brain that determines the power by which your brain operates and the speed by which it processes information. Those are related to the neurotransmitters dopamine and acetylcholine. And so that's what the formula is based on. Boosting that.
So TianChi, otherwise known as heavenly energy, it's having this combination then of the adaptogenic herbs, the tonic herbs that are going to relieve your stress, right? Take the stress off, especially in chronic stress, which most of us have these days, right? And in addition, then it's regenerating the body and the brain because of the nutrients that you've put in it? What are these nutrients, and how did you decide you were going to use that in this formula?
The nutrients are more like food, direct food. They're nutrients your body needs to make acetylcholine, to make dopamine, which are the main neurotransmitters that, like I said, power up your brain and determine the speed by which you process information. Acetylcholine is heavily involved in memory and retrieval of memory. Mm-hmm. In fact, in everybody with a memory disorder, the doctors diagnose them as being deficient in acetylcholine. So the formula, part of that is just to build up, have the building blocks for your brain to make acetylcholine. But also, it has another layer of effect, having those nutrients, because when your brain is lacking in nutrients, you end up with more inflammation in your brain. Mm-hmm. You combine that with the inflammatory chemicals from stress.
Right, and then you're just getting a loop.
And then you're having a loop of
loop.
inflammation. Mm-hmm. So you can't just deal with the stress hormone, and you can't just deal with the nutrition. You have to deal with both. Mm-hmm. And when you bring that into a balance, people start to lighten up. They start to see things differently. It's easier for them to keep up with work. Mm-hmm. And it just starts this upward spiral in your health.
So this combination of the adaptogenic herbs and these super nutrients, how you've formulated them together, it's helping to increase energy because it's taking away stress. It's reducing fatigue. So when you reduce the fatigue and the stress, then you free up this upward spiral of energy, right?
Right. Well, one of the ways you lose energy is because when you're stressed, your body's tense.
Right, you're in the combat mode.
And you're in combat mode, your adrenals are turned on, and you lose all this energy. So TianChi not only reduces stress hormone, but it relaxes your nervous system, gets you out of fight or flight, and then that allows your adrenals to actually soak up energy. And this is what the tonic herbs are great for. They actually supply substance for those adrenals to actually rebuild. So all these processes are going on at once. And one of the other things that most people don't realize is that adaptogenic herbs work on the glands in your brain responsible for the stress response. And when that becomes balanced, your brain takes on a different state of energy. Because when you're in fight or flight, your brain drops down to its oldest part and everything is about battling. It's about a fight.
Right, like when you get in a fight with your spouse.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. It's battling.
You just want to survive.
So the energy's not up in the frontal lobe where all your creativity and your vision is. And so by shifting that with the adaptogenic herbs, they moves the energy of your brain back up to the frontal lobe, and those same glands that are involved in the stress response actually power up parts of your brain. So now your brain has changed to a state of what they call brain coherence, meaning that the entire brain is communicating with itself, as opposed to being dropped into fight or flight, where just one part of it's basically overstimulated.
Mm-hmm. So this is a lot of information to kind of take in and synthesize, but again, kind of getting to the most basic level of understanding why this formula works and why you decided to create it. So I'm understanding that you want to have people have a general, more lighthearted feel to their lives, right?
Right.
It's going to give you, optimize your energy, reduce your stress, and kind of a self-care is what I'm hearing from you, as far as, allowing the brain not to keep going into this combative mode.
The longer that you are using adaptogenic herbs in a product like TianChi, or even my formula Inner Peace, which is based on adaptogenic herbs, you're retraining your nervous system response to stress. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you don't have stress. What it means is you have a natural response to stress. You have it, your body shuts it off, and then you go into repair mode. With chronic stress, and this is what affects most people because of their diets, lifestyles, they just don't have any herbs in their system to help their physical body. They get locked in the response. They lose the feedback loop that tells the brain to shut it off. And so they're just locked into it. They're locked into it when they sleep. And this is why they're agitated all night. They wake up just as exhausted as they were when they went to bed, because they never shut off a stress response.
And your other product, Inner Peace, also has to do with this stress response.
It has to do with the stress response.
That's a conversation for another time.
That's a different conversation, but it's all adaptogenic herbs that deal with the stress response. And see, the stress response isn't just about the stress response. It's the same glands that are the master glands of your entire body. They run homeostasis. Basically, they run every process with your nervous system. So when you have a proper stress response and your nervous system's not overpeaked, then it shuts off naturally when you go to sleep and your body goes into regeneration. But you're going to miss that if you're continuously stressed.
All right, so here's the $1 million question that maybe all of us ladies in over the age of 20 want to know. Is TianChi anti-aging?
Well, if you based on the science, yes, it is.
In what way?
Because aging really comes down to cellular damage, specifically mitochondrial damage. Things like rhodiola, ashwagandha, eleuthero, reishi mushroom have all been shown in countless studies to have an effect on how the mitochondria not only makes ATP, but recycles ATP.
And those are Chinese tonic herbs that you just mentioned.
Those are Chinese tonic herbs.
Those are in your formula.
Those are adaptogens, and they're all in my formula.
Okay.
So they have a direct effect on how the cell makes and recycles energy. And then if you look at the nutrient form part of it, most of those nutrients also have a direct effect on mitochondrial health. Mm-hmm. So at a basic level, they're anti-aging for your cells.
All right. Well, that sounds like a good reason as any to take some Chinese tonic herbs, especially in your formula, TianChi. So before we wrap up, can you tell me a little bit more about your personal story of why you wanted to create this product? I mean, you could have taken any one of those herbs yourself. You could have made this formula for yourself and not put it out into the world on the marketplace. So what's the philosophy behind this? Why did you want to take the time and the energy and everything that it takes to create a product like this and put it on the market? Why?
Well, because for the better part of 14 years, I was working in an environment where I was dealing with people every single day with their health issues. And I've literally put tens of thousands of people on herbal
Really?
programs.
That many?
Yes. And I would probably easily estimate over 30,000 people. It's not...
Just over the course of working in
Of course of that
Hollywood
14
for
years.
Many years.
Now, that's not even counting the people since then, right? So, but the reality is that I realized that I wanted to reach a broader group of people, and you can only do that by having a product that's not just sold from your location, but out in the public, right? Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to make something that was unique, something that made a huge impact in people, and I wanted to deal with what I realized in all the time that I was an herbalist was the main issue that every single person had, and that was too much stress and then a lack of nutrition.
I assume you've experienced that in your own life.
I've experienced that in my own life. So
too much stress.
I mean, it was countless times people would come into the store, they'd have 8 or 9 different complaints.
Yeah.
And you would give them something for stress. And back then, nobody wanted to admit they're stressed out. Today it's like a banner. You want to wave a flag and say, I'm stressed out. It's like it's a sign of pride.
It's the tribe. I'm the tribe of stressed out people.
I belong to the tribe. But back then, nobody wanted to know that. So you would give them a formula, and you would say that it was for, good for their health in the context of their thing. They didn't know it was just for stress.
Right.
And they'd come back 2 weeks later, and instead of having 10 problems, they'd have 2 problems. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Because they're now relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're relaxed,
it from a different perspective.
When they're relaxed, their body started to regain its homeostasis, and most of the symptoms they had were just the fact that they were too tense and they were too stressed.
Right.
And so I took that knowledge, and then I had this great experience. Somebody came into the store. I gave a friend of mine a box of this new formula I made. I had just gotten rhodiola in. It was the first time we had it in the store. I put it together.
And rhodiola is
an adaptogenic herb that's one of the main herbs in TianChi. I had given it to this friend because it was kind of a charity thing, right? And he went home, and he happened to be staying at this guy's house who was a really good friend of his who had chronic fatigue.
Right.
And he gave half the box to him. And this was a guy who never got out of bed before noon. He just had no energy. He had gone to see the top 6 acupuncturists and herbalists in LA, and no results at all. So he gave him some of this box, and 3 days later, at 8 o'clock in the morning, he hears the vacuum cleaner running. And he goes, what the heck is that? And he gets up, and his friend's vacuuming the house. He's out of bed. And he goes, what are you doing? He goes, well, I don't know. I just woke up and I feel really good.
I just woke up. I feel like that.
So here's what happened. The guy took something that actually shut his nervous system off. He probably went to sleep that night for a couple nights in a row, got a really deep sleep. His nervous system calmed, and some of his energy came back in his reproductive system, his adrenals and his glands, and he woke up and he had energy one day.
All right, so you heard it here on the HerbWorks podcast that heavenly energy, also known as TianChi, might just have your housemate wake up one day and vacuum.
Well, that basically was a trigger to me to where I realized it's on a real deep level, it's about restoration of energy, but it's also about how your nervous system is literally running your life. It's draining all your energy. All your decisions you make in life are coming from a brain that's worn out and tired and stressed. So if you could change that and put somebody into a different position, now you're going to create something like heavenly energy. So
you're going to have a brain that's awake and alert, but you're going to have a nervous system that's calm. And really that's, to me, when I think about what you're saying, I think about that difference in extremities, right? So often when we wake up our brain, we do it with lots and lots of caffeine, right? Or sugar, or whatever it is. And then the nervous system follows. So this is a really different concept, to have energy, but have it be compassionate energy, heavenly energy, have it be something that's grounded and solid, that can take you through life and optimize your health and wellness, is what I'm hearing you say.
It creates a feeling, but the great thing about it is that you then go out and experience your normal life, and you do things differently, and you see things differently, and realize that a lot of the issues you had in life were because you were stressed out. Mm-hmm. And life can actually be a lot more fun and a lot more interesting if you're not so stressed out. And so it's a learning curve, right? And that's what the product's about. You learn to really get in touch with the things you love and you do, and you see life differently, and over a period of time everything changes for you.
Well, it does when your perspective shifts, right?
Yeah, and that's what it is.
Shift.
It's a shift in perspective, and there you go. That's TianChi.
What a great conversation, and thank you so much for explaining a little bit more about why you're using tonic herbs, what they're for, how they're used in this particular product in TianChi, and I can't wait to talk to you about some of your other formulations.